Dive in, everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today, we're taking a plunge into Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas.
A classic.
Absolutely. And we're going deep, folks. We've got literary analyses, historical accounts, even snippets from Verne's own life. We're going to unpack what makes this story tick.
It's amazing how Verne took something people were terrified of back then, the ocean, and made it, well, magical.
You're talking about that whole sea monster panic in 1866, right?
Exactly. Newspapers were going wild, this massive creature attacking ships. It was the perfect setup for Verne.
And then he throws Professor Aronnax into the mix, a scientist who gets roped into hunting the monster.
And Aronnax, he's no fool. He even wrote a book about the ocean, Mysteries of the Great Ocean Depths, I think it was called.
Exactly. He's all about logic, scientific explanations.
And Verne, he uses that, sets it up perfectly just to blow it all apart.
Because no monster, right? It's Captain Nemo's submarine, the Nautilus. And let's be real, submarines back then were basically metal coffins, weren't they? More likely to spring a leak than explore anything.
Absolutely. But the Nautilus, this thing is a palace, runs on electricity, glides through the water. Verne imagined the future.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Okay, but Captain Nemo himself, this guy's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Genius inventor, sure, but also kind of terrifying.
Nemo's complexity is the key. He offers Aronnax this incredible opportunity. You're going to voyage through a land of wonders. But there's this darkness there, a deep sadness.
He talks about a lost homeland, family taken from him. Is Verne making a political statement, maybe about colonialism?
It's definitely there in the background. Verne's not afraid to show the ugly side of the world, and Nemo's rage, it feels real.
Which makes it harder when he rams those warships.
Yeah.
Hero, villain, something else.
That's what makes him so interesting. He's the good and bad of technology all wrapped up.
So Nemo's got this incredible machine, wants revenge on the world, and now he drags Aronnax, his assistant Conseil, and Ned Land, who just wants to go home, on this underwater world tour. What an adventure.
And Verne knew his stuff. He was inspired by Matthew Fontaine-Maury, this groundbreaking oceanographer. Currents, depths, everything's there.
So when you're reading about coral reefs, shipwrecks, even the South Pole, it feels real. Maybe Verne was on to something.
It's funny you mention that. He gets the big picture right, but some details, like the diving suits, they were already a bit off, even back then.
Okay, maybe. But that giant squid scene, Verne describes it so well. Terrifying. Even Nemo's technology can't fully conquer the ocean.
For sure. It's beautiful and dangerous at the same time.
Speaking of which, poor Aronnax is caught. He hates what Nemo does, but he's hooked on the discoveries.
It's that human need to explore no matter what.
Ned Land. Poor guy's not having a good time. He's desperate to get out of there. You can feel his frustration building.
It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin, you know? Aronnax, he's drawn to the mystery, the wonder of it all, but Ned, he just wants solid ground under his feet. Familiar faces. It makes you think, doesn't it? About the time Verne was writing this, the Industrial Revolution was exploding, but people were afraid too.
Right. This whole new world was emerging, but what would it cost? You see that tension everywhere in 20,000 Leagues.
Definitely. Nemo and the Nautilus, they represent both, don't they? Incredible progress, but the potential for destruction too.
And he chose a submarine. This thing that can vanish beneath the waves.
Exactly, away from everyone, free to do whatever he wants, like when he sinks that warship.
But that part always gets me. He decides who's right and wrong, all from his underwater lair. Is he a hero fighting for justice, or a terrifying force?
Big questions, and that's why we're still talking about this book. Verne didn't give us the answers. We're still figuring those out ourselves. Technology, power, what's the right way to use them?
And you can't deny how 20,000 Leagues shaped how we see submarines. Before it was all myth, legend. Then Verne writes this detailed account, electric lights, diving suits, the works.
And that look, the Nautilus, all sleek and streamlined, that glowing eye, it's the ultimate underwater vessel.
It pops up everywhere. Movies, theme parks, you name it. Hey, you know what really hit me when I was researching this? Verne was at the 1867 World Fair in Paris.
Oh, right. That's where he saw the early submarine models, the plongeur, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he even mentions the Alabama, that Confederate warship. When he's describing the Nautilus, the guy did his homework.
And it shows, he makes you believe it, you know, like you're right there with them.
Even the food. I know, it sounds weird. But the way he describes their meals, sea turtle, dolphin liver, even some kind of whale milk.
Sounds adventurous. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to try it, but I get it. Verne's showing us they could survive down there forever. A whole world, separate from ours.
Those little details, that's what makes Verne so good. But the adventure can't last forever. 20,000 Leagues has a pretty wild ending.
Aronnax and his buddies, they make a run for it. Freedom, even if it means leaving the Nautilus behind.
And they escape during a crazy storm. The Moskenstromen, right? This
I-
massive whirlpool.
Verne really lets loose in that scene, doesn't he? The raw power of nature, nothing can stand against it.
Like something straight out of a myth. And then, just like that, it's over. Back to the world they left behind, but forever changed. What about the Nautilus? Captain Nemo. Well, that's a story for another time.
Maybe we'll dive into the mysterious island next, but for now, let's stick with 20,000 Leagues. Why should this book matter to us now?
That's the really interesting part. It's not just some old story. It still speaks to us today. I mean, look around.
Seriously, submarines are everywhere.
Movies, books, you name it. That image, the Nautilus cutting through the darkness, that eye glowing. It's stuck with us.
And Captain Nemo, he's like the blueprint for all those brilliant but kind of unhinged characters we love.
Yeah, maybe Nemo takes the cake on the unhinged scale.
Right. But that's what makes him so interesting. It makes you think, how far is too far? When does brilliance become dangerous? Can you do bad things for a good cause?
Verne was onto something. It's like that struggle is inside all of us. Wanting to know more, but being afraid of what we might find. And what happens when we get power? Do we use it the right way?
It's amazing how much 20,000 Leagues still resonates. Look at James Cameron, he said it inspired the abyss. We're still drawn to those themes, the ocean, the mysteries down there.
Going through all this research, it's kind of unsettling how current Verne feels. All his worries about technology, the environment.
Makes you wonder what he'd think now. Would he be excited about how far we've come with ocean exploration? Or terrified by what we're doing to the planet?
That's the sign of a powerful book, right? You finish it, but it sticks with you. Makes you ask those what-if questions. And that's what we wanted to do with this deep dive.
We didn't just scratch the surface, did we? We went deeper. The history, the symbolism, what it all means.
And hopefully you're not just walking away knowing the plot of 20,000 Leagues. You're feeling it. That sense of wonder, wanting to explore, just like Verne makes you feel.
Because in the end, that's what this book is. It's a call to adventure, a challenge to dive into the unknown, out there in the world and inside ourselves, too.
You know what? I think a reread is in order.
Me too. And maybe some ocean documentaries.
To Jules Verne and the power of imagination. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive.
Until next time, keep exploring.